Hello and welcome to the news for Tuesday, August the 12th, 2025. You're watching Channel 51 Independent News, whether you're watching it directly on channel51.com.au or via Cafe Lockdown Network or alternatively via WRMI Radio emanating out of Florida in the US. Welcome aboard. This is the news and there is plenty happening as usual. Well, guess what? The rally scheduled for August 31st to protest or demonstrate for Australia and against mass immigration has made mainstream headlines. How about that? Take Our Country Back reads the headline in news.com.au. Today, police on alert as anti-immigration protests are planned for August 31st. A massive upcoming protest to take our country is going viral online, sparking a divisive debate amongst Aussies, where police in capital cities are on alert ahead of a series of protests planned for August 31st. Flyers and videos promoting the event have gone viral on TikTok and X in recent days. Australia, it's time to rise, reads one flyer. As we've seen around the traps so far, the site invites people to sign up and attend or volunteer. It lists rally locations as Speaker's Corner in Sydney, opposite the New South Wales Art Gallery, and the State Library in Melbourne's CBD, with other city locations to be confirmed. News.com.au has sought comment from the organisers. Meanwhile, New South Wales Police has said it was aware of the social media post. However, at this time, a Form 1 notice of intention to hold a public assembly has not been submitted. Queensland Police said of Monday it has not received a notice of intent. Victoria Police is saying that it is aware of a proposed rally on that date, and South Australian Police said it is aware of the planned protest activity later this month and will continue to liaise with protest organisers. Sufficient police resources will be provided to ensure a peaceful protest is held to minimise traffic disruptions and that the safety of all members of the community is maintained, a spokesperson has said. Meanwhile, notes coming out from users such as Truth Fairy 101 say they have broken the Australian spirit and killed the Australian dream. Australians, including our Indigenous population, are being treated like second-class citizens in our own nation, while immigrants are given priority. Our culture, our history, our heritage and our way of life is being erased. Our national flag is being burnt, our war memorials vandalised, and radicals are calling for death to Australia. Enough is enough. Time to stand united and fight for our country. And Beck Freedom weighed in and was written up in news where she wrote that the rally is not intended to incite violence. That's correct. It is a peaceful rally to show our pride in Australia and its culture. If there is any violence, she wrote, it will come from counter-protests, which I predict will be organised. Anyone claiming to incite violence should be closely watched, in my opinion, as they may be trying to derail the intentions and purpose, wrote Beck Freedom. Well, sure enough, commentator and influencer for Albanese, in fact, not directly, but as close as you can get, Abby Chatfield's been out there making the rounds. And for those that might not be familiar with Abby Chatfield, she is the influencer who, well, she stood down. She said she was quitting social media on November the 7th, 2024, after Trump won. On December the 27th of the same year, she was back 5 hours after quitting social media again. And then on June the 15th, Abby Chatfield announced that she was quitting social media on June the 15th, just a couple of months ago. And then apparently she quit again on July 30th. That was Abby Chatfield. But guess what? She's back. Let us play you now Abby Chatfield's version of what the rally is all about. Take a look.
I didn't want to talk about this because I didn't want to bring attention to it, but it's now getting attention, so it's time to fucking talk about it and condemn it. On the 31st of August, there is going to be a nationwide protest for the racists and the xenophobes of Australia to get together and march for Australia. Okay? They claim that it is about cost of living. They claim that it is about Australia gaining itself back, winning Australia back, taking Australia back from whom? No one knows. And this is nothing but a racist, bigoted, disgusting, terrifying rally. And for any immigrants that follow me or are going to see this video, please fucking know you are welcome. And I know that doesn't feel like it. I know that this country does not make it fucking easy for you. But please know that you are welcome. And these protests should be condemned by every fucking Australian. Like, every Australian should realise that that is just xenophobia and racism. Unnecessarily. We know that the problems that we have in this country, like cost of living, are not because of immigrants coming to this country. It is because of much larger, much more complex economic and political strategies. It is also because of worldwide inflation. Post a pandemic. There are many different reasons. Price gouging. It is easier to blame people that are below you than it is to try and fight upwards, right? So these people go, I have issues in my life. Oh, the cost of living is really high. It must be these immigrants. These people below me because I feel bigger and more tough than them because I'm aware of my privilege, right? If I'm one of these people going to this fucking rally, I'm aware of my privilege. I know that I won't get cops coming to me. I'm a white person. I know that in society, I can punch down on immigrants. Because I perceive them as weaker than I am because of my place of privilege in this country that is on stolen land. Okay? Immigrants or children of immigrants or anybody who is even visiting this country. It is not my place to welcome all of you because I'm not Aboriginal. I'm not First Nations. I'm not Torres Strait Islander. But I will say the majority of Australians who live in this country do not agree with this shit. They don't agree with it. These insecure losers, these absolute freaks want to feel powerful. And like I was saying before, it's easy to punch down than it is to maybe admit that our system is pretty fucked. And maybe those in power, who have power over us, have much more control than they ever realised, right? It's easier to go, there's a simple solution, rather than actually understand that our society is pretty crook. And the stage of capitalism that we're at is pretty bad. And the people that are in power, that you've been bootlicking your whole fucking life, actually aren't going to help you. It isn't the fault of immigrants, okay? So... Sorry, that was just, I kind of blacked out just then. I'm so disgusted by this. I'm so fucking sorry about this. I am horrified. If you know anyone that is going to this or posting about this, either they are a neo-Yahtzee or they don't know what it's actually about. So inform them.
I don't know about you, but that was 4 minutes of my life that none of us will get back. Abby Chatfield, therefore, telling us that the government she serves, because the government has the agenda to bring in 750,000 people and up its intake of international students by another 25,000 to support the university industry. Meanwhile, 750,000 people, you don't affect prices whatsoever. They don't take any properties and they don't cause any choking on an undersupply already of rental properties or properties to purchase. They wouldn't cause the prices to go up. So don't ask questions. And if you do, you're xenophobic, you're racist, you're also a neo-Yahtzee, as she is using that language there, of course, because that's what it would be about. Meanwhile, she serves the Prime Minister of the country as an influencer who has been, well, spoken to the Prime Minister. We can't get an interview with Albanese, of course not, but Abby Chatfield can. She's now telling you that the government is no good, but their policy of bringing in 750,000 immigrants up from 250,000 is perfectly okay. All right, Abby, whatever you want to say. Meanwhile, let's cut now to another clip from Jack Houghton over at Sky News on the media show, where at the weekend, well, in fact, last Friday, he was talking specifically about immigration and also the vetting of certain immigrants, as it was seen that there was some nasty information on a woman who was coming in from Palestine with some untoward posts on social media. But it's the revelation of how everyone is getting in and what type of visa that really caught my attention.
Yeah, and I think as well the statement by Tony Burke saying that he's concerned about it. utterly insufficient from a government that says it's transparent. They need to come out very quickly and explain. But the broader point, I guess, of the article is that ASIO must have missed this, our intelligence agencies must have missed it.
But did they look at it? I mean, that's the question, because what appears to have happened is the Albanese government has decided to bypass the normal system of putting would-be refugees into a third country, spending months having the security services screen them properly. We are told they are coming in on tourist visas. Tourist visas don't get vetted. They don't get screened. Tourist visas can be issued in a day. They're checked online. They don't go to the security services.
Well, one of two things are possible. Either they didn't look, and that's disgraceful, and Tony Burke should wear the blame for that, or they did look and they think that these views are palatable for Australian society.
That's frightening.
And if that's true, it raises questions about all the hundreds of people that have come in from all of these parts of the world where you would expect to have these more inflammatory and extremist views that are not compatible with our society. Either way is a terrible look for the government, and I think we deserve an explanation.
We certainly do. Will we get one? Of course, that remains to be seen. But we do know that the Prime Minister doesn't like being scrutinised on social media. As a matter of fact, he said to us in the past that that'd be the first thing that he'd want to do, is to silence social media criticism. Well, he was interviewed on Sunrise today, and his response to the idea that Australia will now support a Palestinian state, and what difference would it actually make, asked Natalie Barr. Albanese, well, he's saying that people are just sick of it.
I think this
Good morning,
announcement,
Nat. Good to be with you.
That you made yesterday will actually change anything on the ground in Gaza.
What it does is send a message that the international community is saying enough is enough. This is a conflict that has gone on now for 77 years. The international community are saying we need to find a solution that provides security for the state of Israel, but also recognises the legitimate aspirations of the Palestinian people for their own state. And that's why countries like the United Kingdom, France, Canada, and now Australia, but other countries as well, will be joining in September at the United Nations to join the 147 countries that have already recognised Palestine.
Well, that kind of doesn't mean a whole lot, does it, if you don't have the support of the United States? So where does it go from here? Michaelia Cash came out in her response to Albanese.
Mr Albanese's decision today to recognise a Palestinian state whilst hostages remain in the tunnels and Hamas is still in control of Gaza gives Hamas, a terrorist organisation, one of its strategic objectives following the horrific terrorism that we saw on October the 7th, 2023. The coalition's position remains clear. And our position is consistent with the decades-long held view, the bipartisan view, that you cannot recognise an independent Palestinian state while the terrorist group Hamas controls Gaza. Mr Albanese needs to clearly explain to the Australian people how his statements today do not risk rewarding and emboldening a terrorist organisation.
Well, there you go. So two sides. Finally, the opposition are doing what they're meant to do and oppose. Well, in the United States now, a state of emergency has been declared, declaring a crime emergency in the District of Columbia. That is Washington, D.C. And further details of the order from the White House says that the President directs the Secretary of Defense to mobilise the District of Columbia National Guard and order members to active service in such numbers as he deems necessary. Now, it was a big story. It got wall-to-wall coverage on all of the mainstream news. Let's now go down and have a look at the first of the announcements about two executive orders from the president.
A short while ago in the Oval Office, President Trump signed two crucial executive actions to deal with the emergency crime conditions we currently face in the District of Columbia. The first of these was an executive order, as President Trump said before, invoking his powers under Section 40 of the Home Rule Act to take federal control of the D.C. Metropolitan Police Department. Along with that executive order, President Trump signed the statutorily required notification letters to Mayor Bowser and to the relevant House and Senate committee leaders. The second major executive action that President Trump signed was a presidential memorandum directing the Secretary of Defense to utilize the National Guard to address the conditions we see on our streets here in D.C. It also authorized the Secretary of Defense to work with state governors to utilize their National Guard units if necessary as well. These are bold, decisive steps intended to combat the out-of-control crime conditions we've seen on D.C.'s streets for far too long. And I, for one, am deeply proud to be part of an administration that's finally coming to terms with these issues, sir.
Thank you very much.
Sir.
Thank you.
Certainly a big deal in DC, and one wonders what else will become of bringing in the National Guard there as part of the process of cleaning out DC. Or as Trump referenced, if you walk up to a restaurant and the doorway is dirty, you can rest assured that the kitchen is too. That's the same way people will see Washington, DC, and therefore requiring cleanup. Meanwhile, Pete Hegseth also addressed the media.
At your direction this morning, we've mobilized the D.C. National Guard. It'll be operationalized by the Secretary of the Army, Dan Driscoll, through the D.C. Guard. You will see them flowing into the streets of Washington in the coming week. At your direction as well, sir, there are other units we are prepared to bring in. Other National Guard units, other specialized units. They will be strong, they will be tough, and they will stand with their law enforcement partners. This is nothing new for DOD. As the President noted, at the border, we've got 10,000 troops down there who've been operating in defense cooperation areas, defense zones, where there's zero illegal crossings because of troops on strikers scanning the border. We've been protecting other people's borders for 20 years. It's about time we protect our own. And we're working with ICE and CBP. In Los Angeles, we did the same thing, working with the California National Guard, working with ICE officers. ICE officers deserve to do their job and not be attacked. We will work alongside all DC police and federal law enforcement to ensure this city is safe, this city is beautiful. And as I always say about President Trump to the troops, he has their back. And my message to the National Guard and federal law enforcement in Washington is, we have your back as well. Be tough, be strong, we're right behind you.
Well, President Trump was asked how far will he go, and the big question is involving the military.
A lot of essentially military, and we will bring in the military if it's needed, by the way. We're going to have National Guard. But Pete Hegseth will tell you about it. We will bring in the military if needed. People say, oh, that's so terrible. He's going to bring in, it's been used many times over the years. I don't think we'll need it. I think we've got so many great people.
Meanwhile, Pam Bondi has also responded. She said, let me be crystal clear. Crime in DC is ending and ending today. We are going to use every power we have to fight criminals here. Mr. President, thank you for caring about our capital. And Judge Jeanine Pirro also weighed in. She is responsible for DC. Let's have a look.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and thank you, Madam Attorney General, and to all my partners here. We all want the same thing. We all want a safe city. We want a safe capital. We want to be able to bring our families here. We want to be able to come and enjoy the history that makes this place great. And unfortunately, we are not in that position right now. And Mr. President, I want to thank you for taking the step that we need right now to make criminals understand that they are not going to get away with it anymore. And I'm not going to stand here and go over and over the cases. But what I can tell you is this. I see too much violent crime being committed by young punks who think that they can get together in gangs and crews and beat the hell out of you or anyone else. They don't care where they are. They can be in DuPont Circle, but they know that we can't touch them. Why? Because the laws are weak. I can't touch you if you're 14, 15, 16, 17 years old and you have a gun. I convict someone of shooting another person with an illegal gun on a public bus in the chest, intent to kill. I convict him. And you know what the judge gives him? Probation. Says you should go to college. We need to go after the DC Council and their absurd laws. We need to get rid of this concept of, no cash bail. We need to recognize that the people who matter are the law-abiding citizens. And it starts today. But it's not going to end today, because the president is going to do everything we need to do to make sure that these emboldened criminals understand we see you, We're watching you, and we're going to change the law to catch you. And my final note is this. These kids understand that the jurisdiction is through the state attorney general, Brian Schwab. I did a poster of the young man from Doge who was beaten bloody with a severe concussion, a broken nose. And then I did a poster of what happens to those kids, because I can't arrest them, I can't prosecute them. They go to family court, and they get to do yoga and arts and crafts. Enough. It changes today. Thank you, Mr. President.
I tell you what, there is a war going on in Washington, D.C., and the Democrats, well, they've come back and they're managing, but they're panicking. Let's play you now the D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser.
I've said before, and I'll repeat, that I believe that the president's view of D.C. is shaped by his COVID-era experience during his first term. And it is true that those were more challenging times related to some issues. It is also true that we experienced a crime spike post-COVID. But we worked quickly to put laws in place and tactics that got violent offenders off our streets and gave our police officers more tools, which is why we have seen a huge decrease in crime because of those efforts. We have been able to reverse that 2023 crime spike.
Meanwhile, the rest of the Democrat Party, they don't know how to take it or what to do. It's a tailspin.
Chris, to be honest with you, I'm trying to hold my temper. I think there's an ongoing argument that he's having in his head with Black Lives Matter. There's an ongoing argument that he's having with the questions around criminal justice reform and police reform. It's interesting that he really doesn't really care about what's actually happening in D.C. on a certain level, because he's not trying to get at the underlying root causes. He's not looking at examples of how to address rising crime rates that doesn't require a form of policing that leads to increased incarcerality and the like. Let's look at what's going on in Baltimore. Let's look at what's happening actually in places like Baltimore and Chicago, right? So part of what we have to do is to understand. And Oakland. We have to understand this, Chris, within the context of Donald Trump's racial politics and within the context of his effort to get Epstein off the front pages. I understand David's point, but when we try to treat this as a rational response, then we lose sight of the actual politics that's being played here. And he's actually trying to give his base red meat to get them off of the Epstein story, and it's on the backs of citizens in Washington, D.C. He's going to undermine the democratic process in the district.
So it's about the Epstein files. So now we've learnt today, would you believe it, that Judge Paul Engelmayer of the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of New York rejected the Justice Department's bid to unveil the material in a 31-page order Monday morning. Judge Paul Engelmayer was appointed by President Obama. Of course he was. Now, coming out also was Nancy Pelosi in this particular story, and she decided to say that the Donald Trump delayed deploying the National Guard on January 6th when our capital was under violent attack and lives were at stake. Now he's activating the DC Guard to distract from his incompetent mishandling of tariffs, healthcare, education and immigration, just to name a few blunders. But she didn't double down on Jeffrey Epstein. Well, in the meantime, I thought I would show you this. This is when I interviewed Chief of US Capitol of Police, Stephen Sund. Let's hear it from the horse's mouth about whether Donald Trump did or didn't deploy the National Guard.
I requested the National Guard twice on Sunday, January 3rd. I was denied twice by the two sergeant arms who are politically appointed. I'm the only chief of police in the United States of America that has a law from Congress that says I have to go to the sergeant arms and congressional leadership to request support. I requested the National Guard twice on Sunday, January 3rd. I was denied twice by the two sergeant arms who are politically appointed. even while we're under attack, we begin getting attacked at 12:53 p.m. on the west front of the Capitol. 12:55, I call in DC Police, my previous agency. We had coordinated them putting some resources nearby. Thank God they did. And at 12:58, I make my first call to the Sergeant at Arms requesting that legal permission, because even while we're under attack, I have to go to him to get permission to bring in federal resources. And you're right, 71 minutes. At 2:09, I finally get approval. Imagine that. Imagine dialing 000, the emergency, Australian emergency number, and being put on hold for 71 minutes while you're under attack. And then even once I got approval, the National Guard, which was in eyesight of the Capitol, wouldn't even come for 3.5 hours. That's crazy.
So the Sergeant of Arms is appointed or voted on by Congress on the direction of the Speaker of the House. And that Sergeant at Arms twice rejected Stephen Sund's appeal and application for National Guard assistance, which was offered by the President. How do we know that? Well, here we know that we've seen a denial of support from the Mayor. There she is again, Muriel Bowser. And let's zoom in here. To be clear, the District of Columbia is not requesting other federal law enforcement personnel and discourages any additional deployment without immediate notification to and consultation with MPD if such plans are underway. The protection of persons and property is our utmost concern and responsibility. MPD, Metro Police Department, is well trained and prepared to lead the law enforcement coordination and response to allow for the peaceful demonstration of First Amendment rights in the District of Columbia. And you can see that date going back to January 5, 2021. Just unbelievable, isn't it, what we're seeing right now? Well, meantime, one more breaking news story, and we've just learnt, ready for this, exclusive, a Democrat whistleblower has told the FBI, and this is on FBI Director Kash Patel's own X page, that Adam Schiff okayed leaking classified intel to hurt Donald Trump. So Kash Patel writes, "We found it, we declassified. Now Congress can see how classified info was leaked to shape political narratives and decide if our institutions were weaponized against the American people." And if you go back here from 2019, Donald Trump writes, "Congressman Adam Schiff, who spent 2 years knowingly and unlawfully lying and leaking, should be forced to resign from Congress." And if we go a little further here, the word looking at knowingly, Congressman Adam Schiff, who spent 2 years knowingly and unlawfully lying and leaking, should be forced to resign from Congress. Knowingly leaking investigations can lead to forced resignations. Knowingly disseminating false information is illegal. How about that? And then one more. Do you believe in coincidences? Enjoy the show. Well, we are at a crossroads right now. DC has now got National Guard support. All of these politicians who were involved in Russiagate seemingly congregate around DC. Are we going to see a crossover now when they are going to remove criminals on the street, and perhaps criminals in high office? It remains to be seen. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate your support. And if you'd like to, you are welcome to subscribe at channel51.com.au and become a paid subscriber with an offer this month over 30% off, reduced to just $51 for an annual subscription. And I can't thank you enough for your contributions to all new subscribers, both free and paid. It makes all the difference as we build a new service better than anyone else in the independent space, bringing you news from Australia and around the world. More power to you as you look to change the planet, the country, and your world away from tyranny and towards freedom, free will, goodwill, and opportunity and abundance for all. See you all on the next show.